Hello everybody, Clouded here, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's video, which is a watercolor speed paint of my original character, Evanora, who is a potions witch, so I thought she'd be perfect for the spooky month of October. Before I get into all of the artsy chatty talk, I'd like to do my normal FYI that I do record in my home studio, which is home to my three beautiful feather babies, Yuri and Vicha, my budgies, and Cloud, my cockatiel, so I'm sure you will hear them in the audio for this video. Okay, now on to the artsy talk. So this is gonna kind of sound rambly and random as I go through supplies and process and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I apologize, I'm still kind of new to this whole commentary thing, so please bear with me as I kind of get my sea legs for commentary. So for supplies, next to me is this giant gorgeous palette of watercolors, which is the Karatake Genzai Tambi 48 set. I bought this at the start of quarantine to kind of spoil myself. So I actually had the 24 watercolor set for a long time, and I really enjoyed when I got to use it. But the thing was, as I started doing anime conventions, I decided that I was going to focus more on my digital skills, because it was much easier to make prints digitally than to scan them traditionally and try to adjust the colors and do all of that. So I kind of had a falling out with traditional art and decided to go work digitally for a really long time. But at the start of quarantine, I kind of fell out of love with digital art a little bit. I feel like I was just burnt out on digital art. So I decided to work more heavily in my sketchbook, and I used a lot of like watercolor brush pens and everything in there, and I found that I was really enjoying the process of traditional art again. I found it really soothing and like cathartic, especially with like the world on fire. So I decided that I wanted to try doing some more finished traditional pieces again. The only issue was that before I had a big falling out with traditional art, I primarily used alcohol markers. And the thing is, with my birds living in my home studio now, alcohol markers aren't an option because the fumes could really harm them. So I had to basically get rid of my alcohol markers or only work with them downstairs with like all the windows open to be safe, and that's not really a comfortable way to work. So I decided to go through my menagerie of art supplies and figure out what I could use with the birds in the room. And I pulled out my Genzai Tambi palette, and I remembered I do enjoy watercolor. I'm not particularly great at it, but I do enjoy the process of watercolor, and I did really enjoy these paints. So I decided to do some research to see if they would be safe to use around the birds. So I actually found out that they're non-toxic, they're water-based, they use natural binders and everything. So the more information I found out, the more I got comfortable with using them around my feather babies. So yeah, I actually really found that these paints could be a viable option for me to use in my home studio. So after finding that out, I decided to spoil myself with the giant 48 set of Genzai Tambi watercolors, and I have to say I am not disappointed in these watercolors, especially this set. This set has a really gorgeous range of colors between lights, darks, mid-tones, and even some metallics. I'm actually really appreciative that it does have these really pretty light pastel tones, because I find a lot of palettes do not pay particular attention to those kind of tones, and I find that tones like the lilac, the cherry blossom pink, the rose beige in this palette are actually some of the harder tones to actually mix without getting them super muddy. I know that it is much better to mix your tones than it is to depend on pre-mixed tones, but considering I've been having some trouble mixing my colors because I've atrophied on my watercolor skills, since it's one of those things, if you don't use it, you lose it, and I definitely lost some of it. So I really enjoy the fact that there are some lighter base tones that I can use to, you know, do skin and lighter areas and things like that, and then mix it with the darker colors to create more of a shade without having the issue of really making things too muddy. Also, these are a pan watercolor because I've kind of been banned from using tube watercolors. I am a very messy artist, and when I use tube watercolors, they end up all over the floor, they end up all over my desk. At one point, they ended up all over my dog. And yeah, being a messy artist, pan watercolors are just the way to go for me, because I kind of destroy tube watercolors, even if it's completely by accident. So yeah, these are just a really nice big pan watercolor, and the really cool thing is that say you do run out of lilac or cherry blossom pink, or you know, your rose madder deep, you can go on places like jet pens and just replace one pan. You don't have to buy a whole new set. You don't have to buy a smaller set and move pans over from the smaller set into your bigger set. You can just buy individual pans and they just pop right back into your box here, because none of these pans are glued into the box. They all come out, and underneath each pan is the name and number of the color, so you can keep them in the color order that they come in the box. Because the cool thing is that these Genkai Tambi watercolors actually come with 2 swatch sheets. You get a paper swatch sheet that pulls out of the box and you can put it in a swatch book, things like that. You also have a swatch sheet that's glued onto the back of the top of the box, and the color order that they come in the box is the color order for the swatch sheet, so it's like super helpful. I also really love little details like when companies do include swatch sheets and things, because honestly their swatch sheets are going to be far more clean than what I would do for a swatch sheet. I know Prima Marketing also does like these cute little swatch sheets in their watercolor sets as well, which I highly appreciate. But the Genkai Tambi, I like how they include 2, because you have one you can put in a swatch book, and if you do lose that one, which sometimes I lose things really easily, you do have the one that's actually glued on the back of the box. Okay. Now, I'll talk more about these watercolors as I go into like more artsy stuff, but I'm gonna also go into other supplies that I used right now. So, right now I'm actually using a Creative Inspirations Creative Mark Dura handle brush in a 4 round, and that one is from Jerry's Artorama. I paid like $1.19 for these when they were on sale, and it's a good little brush. It's a solid, good little brush, so definitely not bad for the price. And the red brush that I'm using here is a 7 Grumbacher round golden edge brush, which is fantastic. I actually got these brushes when they were on sale for the buy one get one 50% off at Michael's. And honestly, that's like one of my biggest things about getting art supplies that are a little more fancy or expensive, is I always wait for them to go on sale, because they always go on sale. Or I coupon them down to like nothing. So if you're patient and willing to wait for things, you can actually get really, really good deals by waiting for sales and couponing on art supplies. But yeah, this Grumbacher brush is super nice. Like, it hasn't lost its point. It hasn't lost any of its bristles. Plus, the barrel color, that really bright red, is just fantastic, and I love it. It's so pretty, and I love pretty things. So it's like, huh. I know that's weird to sit there and talk about how pleasing the barrel color is to me, but okay, I'm a little strange like that. But yeah, it's overall a really, really good brush. Sadly, I only have 2 of these, but I might eventually invest in some more when they go back on sale. And the third brush that I use in this painting actually comes from the Dollar Tree. So, every couple of weeks on payday, I like to go to the Dollar Tree and investigate what strange, new, and interesting art supplies that they have over in their craft section. This last time, I found a plastic brush holder, which actually is really, really nice, surprisingly. And I found these little 3-packs of Master Stroke brushes. It comes with 2 rounds and a flat brush. And this one is actually, that I used for this painting, was a 2 round. And it held up incredibly well. It didn't lose bristles, it didn't lose its point, it held water well, it did everything that it needed to do, and it came in a 3-pack from the dollar store, and it was fantastic. So kudos to you, random maker at the Dollar Tree. But never underestimate the strange and interesting things that you can find at the dollar store. But yeah, Master Stroke, not bad brush. Now on to paper. Oh boy, the chronicle of watercolor paper. This was quite a chronicle, let me tell you. When I decided I wanted to start going back into watercolor, I decided, since I had a little extra cash, and everybody and their second cousin was having sales on art supplies because it's quarantine and they want to make big buck on people getting into new hobbies, I decided to buy a menagerie of watercolor papers. I picked up a Arches cold press pad in 9x12. I picked up a Paul Rubens watercolor block, a Fabriano watercolor block, and a whole bunch of Artist Loft paper that I said, I'm going to use this for experimenting. So I did my first watercolor painting on the Arches paper, and I don't know if I didn't prime it right or what I did, but it was atrocious. It buckled really bad, it pilled really bad, it wasn't good. Maybe I just need to figure out how to use it better. I don't know. The Paul Rubens paper is fantastic and I loved it. I like the hot press because I noticed with the Arches, the cold press texture I found kind of intrusive and I didn't like it. So I definitely think I'm leaning more towards hot press papers now. But the Paul Rubens was super nice, but it is also a watercolor block, and considering my traditional art skills aren't where they once were, I would mess up a lot on my inking and stuff, so I would have to take the page off the block and I couldn't actually paint it because the inking was atrocious. So then I decided to kind of put my blocks away until I could get my inking skill back up to what it used to be. Digital art kind of spoils you because you can use a stabilizer when you ink, where traditional art you can't. So it's just getting this skill back after not doing it for so long. And then this painting is actually on a Artist Loft pad that I got on clearance at Michael's for like $2. It is a 5x7 watercolor paper pad, Artist Level 2, 140 pound 5x6. And it's a fantastic little watercolor pad. Like, I'm highly impressed by it. It didn't buckle overly a lot. It didn't pill a lot. It handled a lot of water. It was just fantastic. So if you want a nice little watercolor pad that you can do a lot with and, you know, kind of practice with, I'd highly recommend the Artist Loft 5x7. I do have some of the bigger Artist Loft pads that I got in a 3-pack from Michael's a few weeks ago. So I'm going to try those out for a different watercolor painting, and then I will let everybody know how that goes. Hopefully it's just as good as the little paper pads. Okay. Artsy talk now. Let's talk about Evanora here. So, during the process of this painting, I had a lot of trouble figuring out how I wanted to shade. I also noticed about now, and maybe a little bit, about now I noticed that I had completely forgotten a few details on her design. So Evanora, I just started drawing her like 8 or 9 months ago when I actually gave her a name before I started doing Art Fight. And I forgot some really key details on her character design. Evanora wears these really big round glasses that are they're a part of her character design that is fabulous. And I completely forgot to draw them on. And I also forgot one of her cutest little details that I just love so much. I forgot her freckles. And as you can see here, we had a little bit of an issue. So this video was actually recorded on stream, and I had decided to stop streaming for a while and get something to eat. And then I was like, okay, I'll come back up and work more on the watercolor and just record it on my iPad. And you know, then my iPad decided to shut off my recording when I got a Twitch notification, and I don't have any footage of me doing the background or drawing on the glasses or anything of that nature. So I apologize that those steps were definitely missed. I know, like, for this painting that I wanted to go with kind of like a mysterious galaxy theme kind of thing. It didn't go particularly well. Like, I feel like I should have planned out the background and the light source and stuff much better than I did. I kind of jumped into this painting without really thinking much about the background or thinking about light source or anything, which I know is really, really bad to do, and I should not do that. But I really wanted to paint, and I was excited to paint, so I just wanted to get down to painting. Plus, I was streaming that day, and I was excited to paint on stream for the first time. So I was like, I'm just gonna dive in and paint. And it had mixed results. I do feel like as I got down towards the bottom of the painting where the little table with the book is, where I'm watercoloring now, I feel like I did get a bit of a better grasp on what I was doing with like the shading and adding the violets and things into the other tones. But I wish I had paid more attention to things when I was working on Evanora herself, because I feel like she could have looked much better. And the thing is, here where I'm doing her skin, my friend Raichana actually told me that the purple in this palette makes a really good shading tone for skin when you mix it with like the rose beige. And so I decided to take her advice and try it, and it worked fabulously well. It makes it look so pretty. So there's a little tip passed from Raichana to me to you, that the purple in this palette makes a really nice shading tone when mixed with the rose beige for shading, and I really enjoy like the little bit of color and pop that it brought to her skin. And the gel pen that I'm using to kind of fix any of the areas where I kind of went crazy with the watercolor is a Uniball Signo, which I really, really like how opaque they are as opposed to how transparent like jelly rolls are. I find that I really enjoy the Uniball Signo gel pens far more. And here I am, I'm working on the potions, and I kind of wanted them all to look very galaxy-y and night sky. That's why I put like moons and stars and stuff in the potions. I should have kind of worked on the bottles in a different way, because now I noticed I've looked up like how to like shade bottles and stuff in watercolor, and I actually see a couple things that I should have done different with the bottles. But at the time I was actually really proud of how I shaded and worked on the bottles, because it's been so long since I did anything that was kind of transparent with watercolor, and I'm actually really, really proud about how they turned out to a certain extent. I also really like a lot of the washes of color that I did for like the little galaxies in the bottles. I feel like especially the one that she's holding in her hand, the blue with the purple, just looks so pretty. And then I go in with the Genzai Tambi gold, and I actually did gold detailing in the bottles and on her outfit and things with that, and that gold is just so good and so creamy. And I want to actually get the starry color palettes they make as well, because I just love their metallics. So eventually I will have the starry color palette. So here I am trying to go in and make the background a little darker on the edges, because I kind of wanted to emphasize her more. It didn't work out particularly well. I'm still kind of trying to figure out a lot of stuff with watercolor, and I hope to keep improving with it as I do more paintings. This is actually like my third or fourth painting that I've done over the last couple months, and I do really like it still, but I feel like with every watercolor painting I figure more stuff out with watercolor. Also, by watching other people on YouTube and like my friend Raichana streaming watercolors, I actually learned quite a bit about like watercolor technique and stuff, so I hope I just keep getting better and better at it. Here I'm starting to do like little highlights and things with my Uniball Signo, because it's so opaque and wonderful. Also, for the background, I'll be doing that in a minute. I had no idea what I was going to do for this background. And when in doubt, my general rule is sparkles. So here I am going in with more Uniball Signo gel pens and a couple of random like purple and blue gel pens that I found, and going in and adding shimmers and little sparkles. And yeah, it didn't work out particularly well. I'm not feeling this background. I'm just not. I feel like it was really lazy of me not to draw in a background. I'm not particularly good at drawing backgrounds, but I find like with my fan art stuff, I draw backgrounds far easier than I do with my original character stuff. But yeah, when in doubt, I automatically default to sparkles, and like right there, I didn't like where that sparkle was, but it didn't want to come off, so I'm just like, okay, whatever. But yeah, we're actually going to be wrapping up this painting in about a minute and 30 seconds, I think. So I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by to check out my Evanora painting, and I do stream on Twitch on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays over at Twitch TV youtube.com/clouded poetry if you'd like to watch me do my art live. I also post a lot of stuff on Instagram and my Twitter, which you can find all the links down in the description. And if you like what you see, please hit that subscription button. I'm going to try to have a video every other Tuesday, which seems like a good schedule for me. So I would like to thank everybody for watching, especially if you watched me ramble on for this long. Thank you so much. And I hope everybody has a safe rest of their week. And yeah, now we're just gonna peel the tape off the painting and see that glorious white border. And oh, I love the white border on paintings. Oh, yeah, the washi tape is simply gilded, which is fantastic, by the way. But yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Have a safe rest of your week, and toodaloo!